Mm-hmm.
Who is your niche segment? Now, forget about your vision and TAM. A lot of startup founders actually think, oh, I have a horizontal AI product. Anybody can use it.
Mm-hmm.
Forget that. That's all fluff. Who are you going to go after next? Where will you get your first 10, 20 customers from? Right? So you actually start with that. Now, that's one of the things that I have noticed product management sort of lacks today is we look at requirements as a very dry thing that they tell me your requirement, but we forget to look at the entire workflow, how they are doing that whole job today. What kind of improvement when we say, I want to give value to customer, what kind of value are you giving to the customer? Is it helping them make more money? Is it helping them reduce cost? Is it saving them time? Is it improving risk? Is it improving experience quality?
Yeah.
One thing I've learned is there is no one point of product market fit. There are multiple points of product market fit. A lot of product managers, they think their job is to write stories, do some testing and give the product to the marketing team. I tell them, don't call yourself a product manager. Right?
Okay.
You're not a product manager. You're just a requirements gatherer. As a product manager, you have to anticipate, work with your stakeholders and make sure they are ready. I guarantee you, you will get 10 different answers. I guarantee you. Your job is to find the patterns behind the answers.
Yes.
Nobody will give you requirements straight away.
Here I am, bringing you insightful conversations about modern-day career opportunities, perspectives, and powerful stories. Welcome to Career Explore. I am your host, Jay Kishore Bayadi.
So today we have Deepak Deolalikar, a product expert, coach, and advisor. Deepak has over 14 years of experience in enterprise B2B product management, working with startups, scale-ups, and big five consulting firms. Most recently, he was a VP at Brightedge, where he built a new marketing automation category. Deepak advises startups at Berkeley Skydeck and teaches product management courses at UC Berkeley and the Institute of Product Leadership. He holds a BS in computer science and an MBA from UC Berkeley. In this episode of Career Explore, we will be discussing about an interesting topic for all product guys and BAs out there, envisioning a product that market wants. So Deepak, I welcome you to the show. So before we begin, can you please introduce yourself and share your background and your current role? And basically, how did you get into product management, why it interests you, and the one thing that you love most about your job? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jakishar.
Yeah.
If I had to break down my life story, it's like split into like three parts. So after my engineering, obviously, like all of us, I was in programming. I wanted to be a chip designer, and my final year project was actually building a microprocessor. So I built my own opcode language, and I was able to demonstrate it using circuits. But your first job defines you. And a friend of mine told me, "Hey, my company is hiring for a programmer. Why don't you join?" And they were actually building ERPs like for small, medium businesses and factories back in New Delhi in India. And so I had to learn financial accounting and so on and so forth. So the first 5-6 years of my life, I was actually doing programming. So I was a developer. In those first 5 years, for 2 years, I was independent on my own. I've actually built a product. So my product experience actually started in 1992. So I built a product for factories, small factories, to manage their inventory, accounting, customers, receivables, pricing, and all of that. So I got a taste of commercial software very, very early in my life. I moved to the US to start my second phase, and where I was in management consulting for 12 years. So KPMG and Capgemini were the two main ones. What consulting actually was a very useful experience for me personally, which helped me later in product management. It helped me understand enterprises a lot more in a much more nuanced way. How they decide to do projects, how they decide to implement, what are the change management aspects of it, how do they assess risk, in building projects. So even though in my consulting, I wasn't building a product per se, we were implementing a lot of projects around BI and data warehousing and many other things. I also did one SAP project. So I understood how organizations think in terms of operational, uh, uh, transforming their operational businesses, basically. Now, in 2009, my third phase started. This was the height of the credit crisis. I lost my job at that point of time. I took some time off and figured out, hey, what should I do? And interestingly, I was in the library and I found this book called "What Should I Do with My Life?" And
Okay.
it was a fascinating book by Poe Bronson, and it helped me clear out some of them. What happens is when you are in a particular job, you think you can only do that. What this book helped me was broaden me. Hey, you can do many other things. And it just so happened that after 6 months of my hiatus from work, I got introduced to this wonderful founder. He had just come from Germany, and he had this data visualization software, which is my area, BI. And he said, I don't know anybody in Silicon Valley, and I'm looking for a kind of like a co-founder. Would you be open to it? And I said, okay, let's try it for 3 months. And I was there for 6 years, and that was the best job I ever had in my life.
Oh,
And we'll talk a little bit about that. Like we went through 3 different pivots, a lot of learning. But that was my real first Silicon Valley startup experience. This was in 2009 till 2015. Then after that, I left for personal reasons. I left and joined Sugar CRM. That was my second favorite job. I was able to launch like 4 different products, and that had when I joined Sugar and when I left Sugar were completely different animals. And I have to give credit to the CPO and my VP of product for making that transformational change. And I was part of that. I was able to launch like 4 new products in there. And recently I was with Brightedge, which was for 2 years. Their priorities shifted. Nowadays, I'm mostly doing 2 roles. I'm teaching. I teach product management at Berkeley as well as Institute of Product Leadership in Bangalore. So I teach lean entrepreneurship, product management. I also am an advisor to startup now. So I have a couple of clients already. So I'm trying to grow that part of my business now. So I'm helping others to giving back to the community.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, so the last part of the question, why the product management interests you basically, so you have a diverse experience, right? Obviously the last 14 years is you are in product management, but it seems that you passionately enjoyed those roles. I mean, you yourself said that some of them, the jobs you held were actually best jobs, best ones. So why the product management interests you?
I think in general, work consists of 2 types of work. All of us, the whole humanity, everybody is working. Somebody is an accountant, somebody is a lawyer, somebody is this, somebody is this. There are 2 types of, ethos. Like one is executing, right? Accountant's job is to make sure that the books are on time, they're accurate, we file our taxes. Lawyers, they make sure that, we are compliant. Marketing people, we are just like, I'm not saying they are not creative, but they are creative, but they are executing something that is known. Product, on the other hand, so the second type of people are people who create something out of nothing. And that's the part that, caught my attention. So when I joined that startup in 2009, so I'm not following orders from a client. I'm not looking at executing an SAP or an Oracle or a BI project. I'm taking requirements. No, we are not doing that. We are thinking blindly, what do our customers want? What are some big pain points? Okay, now let's build something around it. How do I build it? Well, there I have 4 different options. Let's choose one. Does it work? And then when it gets into the hands of the customer and they actually find value, that was like a light bulb in my head. That's the part that I really enjoyed. And the reason I stayed 6 years in that startup was I made a promise to myself that Monday morning, 6 a.m., you should be eager to go to work. And I felt that for entire 6 years in that journey.
Yeah, I mean, so that's great.
Creating something out of nothing is what drives me in product. Now, there are other creative roles where you create something out of nothing. Artists do that all the time. And my thing was building products because I have been in engineering and so on. So I naturally gravitated towards product management.
Yeah, that's a fantastic, actually, building something from nothing. So yeah. So now, I know, let's get into this, your the forte, the product management, because that's your the strength, and you love it most, right? So basically, when you start a product management, right? So how do you identify the most pressing pain points of your target market, and how does that guide the product vision? I mean, so basically, yes, I mean, there are various techniques, survey, I mean, all those various techniques that normally we get, but as a product manager, right? I mean, how you start that visualization, or thinking in your mind.
You always start with some hypothesis in your own head that I want to build something.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that I always like to clarify with, even with the companies that I advise,
Mm-hmm.
is who's your target segment, who's the title that you are trying to target. So
Mm-hmm.
I am targeting the VP of sales, or I am targeting a sales ops analyst, and for what type. So, and VP of sales in a retail company, their needs are different from VP of sales in, say, some software company. And even within that, sales-led people, product-led growth companies, they all have different needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who is your niche segment? Now, forget about your vision and TAM. A lot of startup founders actually think, oh, I have a horizontal AI product. Anybody can use it.
Mm-hmm.
Forget that. That's all fluff. Who are you going to go after next? Where will you get your first 10, 20 customers from, right? So you actually start with that. Then you go a little bit deeper. How are they doing it today? And why do they want to do that? Now, this gets into a little bit of jobs to be done framework and so on, but it's a little broader than that.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that they are trying to accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
And what is the cost of them doing it the way they are doing it today? And if there is an opportunity to improve upon that. So, for example, let's say I want to build some software for lawyers to help them summarize legal briefs. And today they hire a paralegal to do that. Now, if you're a law firm with, say, let's say you're a small, medium law firm with, say, 20 lawyers, paralegals, that's a lot of cost for you, right? Now you have an AI tool that can do that for you, right? So what you have to do is talk to these lawyers and get down to how do they do it today? For which types of legal briefs? What are some implications? Can AI really help or not? So you have to get down to their workflow and understand the workflow. Now that's one of the things that I have noticed product management sort of lacks today is we look at requirements as a very dry thing that, hey, tell me your requirement, but we forget to look at the entire workflow, how they are doing that whole job today.
Yeah.
And so you look at that and then look for inefficiencies in that process. So for example, let's say one of my persona is an SDR and they have to do 50 calls per day, 50 cold calls per day. How can I help them improve their cold calling process? Well, I have to go deeper now. What does cold calling entail? Well, I have a phone number, but I don't know anything about this person. Okay, well, is that a problem? Yes, it's a problem because then it's a very cold call and it will take me half an hour just to introduce myself. I wish there was a better way to make this cold call and make it a little warmer call. Okay, what would you need for that? Well, I would love to know a little bit more about this person that I'm talking to, their background, their company, maybe some news about the company. Okay, so, and if you can give me a script that is personalized to that thing, that call will go much better. Okay, so now I'm going deeper and deeper, and now I'm identifying opportunities. So here I have identified two opportunities for improvement. One is, well, I can help you get information about this cold prospect from LinkedIn or websites or scraping the website, whatever I will do. And I will give you some brief of what to talk about with this person. So that's number one. And number two opportunity is I can help you create a script that you can be very personalized to this particular SDR. So maybe I will need some AI for that. But let's not jump into the solution directly, right? Now, if you are as product managers, we get married to our solution and product too much. So if I had built this AI sales tool, I would just jump into that. But as a product manager, you have to take a step back and look at their entire workflow and specifically where I can help them, where they are not able to do that. Another thing, another mistake is not every problem is worth solving. Is something in, especially in B2B.
Mm-hmm.
I use this analogy that let's say I have a house and there is a leak in my bedroom, roof, and
Mm.
water is leaking. That is a painful problem to solve like today, right now. But if I have a hole in my gardening shed, for example, I can wait. I can wait till the weekend, right? In B2B, they have 47 problems at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll only be working on two or three at one time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the nature of complexities of businesses.
Mm.
So to summarize, I think how do you build products that customers actually want? You have
Mm.
to understand it from their jobs to be done, workflow, and see where there are opportunities to actually make that improvement. What
Mm.
kind of improvement when we say, I want to give value to customer? What
Mm.
kind of value are you giving to the customer? Is it helping them make more money?
Mm.
Is it helping them reduce cost? Is it uh, saving them time? Is it improving risk? Is it improving experience quality? You have to be seamless user experience is not value. A seamless user experience that reduces the time to search for somebody so that they can make a quick phone call. That is the value, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean that's it's a bang on basically, the delivering value is the most important aspect of any delivery basically, whether you are delivering services or whether you are the giving the services through your product. I mean, I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. So now you understood the value which you are going to deliver to your customer. This is what so what is the next step now? So the next step, how, what are the essential elements of a successful product strategy? How do you, let's say, I mean, you have a features now, or epics, then features, I mean, maybe user stories, all this, you have that value stream, everything. So now how do you prioritize basically, as a product manager, that
Yeah.
what are the steps you take, to begin with, so that
Yeah. Yeah.
customer can get that, the thing early on, or how
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
plan it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There is a step that I also do in before all of this features and story writing and Jira and all that. It's
Mm-hmm.
validation. So we are doing discovery
Mm-hmm.
that, okay, who is my customer segment? What pain point do they have?
Mm-hmm.
Now I have to go through another layer of validation. And there are two types of validation. One is the demand validation.
Mm-hmm.
There are actually three types of validation you have to do, especially for a startup. There's actually for any product teams: demand validation, uh, feasibility validation, and viability validation.
Mm.
So let me explain that. Demand validation is, does anybody even have this need? Is this even a problem? Right? I was walking in Home Depot the other day, and there was this guy selling solar panels, and he
Mm-hmm.
was like trying to sell me, and he was trying to tell me that our solar panels are better than somebody else. But do I even have a need yet? No, I have solar panels yet. But what if I was living in an apartment? That's a waste of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So demand validation means, is there a demand for this product? Is there a demand for a solution? I'm not going to say the word product. Is there a demand that needs to be solved? This problem statement needs to be solved. And how big is that? Is it just for a small set of people, or is it for a big set of people? So if they, hey, I have an idea. I want to build a CRM for llama farmers in South America. Well,
Mm-hmm.
how many llama farmers are there?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. 100 maybe. That's not a big pain point. But let's say I'm building like a marketing automation for real estate agents in United States who are, selling in high growth regions. Well, that's a big market. Like
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco Bay Area alone might have like 3,000 real estate agents, right? How big is the market? Is this even a real market? So that's demand feasibility. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to go through a very solid discovery process and almost like a soft selling process that, hey, I'm trying to solve this. Is this something? How many people should you talk to? We can talk a little bit about that. But there is no hard and fast rule in that. You keep talking until you get some patterns, until you get some learning. When your learning becomes repeated, then you stop. So now you have figured out there is demand. Now your solution, now you have some ideas about your solution. Oh, I'm going to have AI, I'm going to add crypto, blockchain, blah, blah, blah. Whatever your solution is, you have to validate whether that will actually work. So you can claim all sorts of, my AI will help you reduce time, but does it actually work? Or does it hallucinate half the time? Does it give me accurate predictions? So you have to validate that. So that's a feasibility validation. How would you do that? MVP, prototype. There are there's actually a fantastic book that I recommend every product manager to read. It's called The Right It by Albert Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
And in that book, you have a lot of experiments like fake door experiments, landing pages, Wizard of Oz type of experiments. And a lot of these experiments were actually pioneered in the 60s and the 70s by IBM and other companies, how to validate feasibility of a product. And feasibility need not just be technical feasibility, it's also usability feasibility. So as an example, if you remember the product Palm Pilot in the 90s, and it was a digital device where you could, this is pre-iPhone, pre-smartphone, where you could check up your appointments and you could look up phone numbers, right? And maybe make some notes. The founder of that product was worried that people will actually even use it or not. So he actually created a wooden prototype with pieces of paper with his calendar for the whole week and some important phone numbers. Every time somebody asked him, "Hey, Jack, are you free for a meeting 2 o'clock on Thursday?" He would take that out. What was he testing? He was testing whether when the time comes to actually look for something, will I actually even open it up or not? So that's considered like the feasibility validation. And then finally, there is viability validation, which is, will I actually make money in this? Is there a business model in here? Will people even pay for this thing, right?
Yeah. That's a very important aspect, actually.
And profitable as well.
Yeah. That's really, the many founders or creators of products I have seen, they are fascinated with their product, the features, all those stuff, rather than the marketability of the product, or how to sell that product, basically, right? So that is really important point as well.
Actually, my point of view is that marketability and the sellability of the product becomes straightforward if you have gone through this exercise of understanding the customer's pain point, validated it, and if there is a big pain point and a lot of people have it, and you have validated that the solution actually works, everything else will just flow. I'm not going to say it's simple. I'm just going to say it becomes a little bit more straightforward. Otherwise, you're just throwing spaghetti on the wall to figure out who should I sell to.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I totally agree with that. So, I mean, that brings us to, a topic of, the access, this product market fit, right? I mean, so, I saw in your, LinkedIn profile that or in your website as well, at iCharts, one of the companies you were in, you mentioned, going through 3 pivots before finding, actually the product market fit, right? So how did you recognize, when a pivot was necessary, and what was your process? Can you explain that? Because this will be a real life, experience, right? I mean, if you tell that story, that would be really helpful.
One thing I've learned is there is no one point of product market fit. There are multiple points of product market fit, and there is a solution fit, and people have used different terms: solution market fit, problem solution fit, problem market fit, product market fit. And I think this, just like the word MVP has been, misused and misconstrued, EMF is also a little bit misconstrued. So this is what I experienced. And by the way, I did my MBA before I joined this startup, and my professor was Steve Blank. So I was fresh out of school with thoughts about lean entrepreneurship, 4 steps to epiphany, and MVP and PMF. And Eric Ries, actually, I met him as well, who started the lean entrepreneurship movement. I actually hosted him at an event when he was just starting out with his lecture series. So I was fresh. So here's where when the rubber meets the road. So we started doing a lot of discovery. I spoke to like 80 customers or prospects in the span of like 2-3 months initially, and various segments. So we settled on one market segment because they had a big pain point. The solution it was something we knew we could build. So we morphed the product just a little bit. So we were going after primary market research companies. So we got up to like, I don't remember the exact number, like 600K, 700K ARR. Now, we thought we had reached product market fit because we are getting repeat customers, right? So what happened was, after about 1.5 to 2 years, the effort to get the next customer started getting complicated, bigger. They wanted this, they wanted that, they wanted this feature, they wanted that feature. And all those features are very non-scalable kind of work, right? So for example, one of the features they would tell me is, hey, now you have created this visualization. Now create a PowerPoint deck for me in my template with the right sections that I can edit, right? Okay, that's a very, now we are, deviating from our core now. We want to be in data visualization, right? So we had to make some hard choices. Now, we could build the feature. That's not the difficult part. The part that made us decide was that getting incremental customer, see, what is the goal of a startup? To get repeatable customer with the lowest marginal cost. The first customer is always hard. The second customer gets easier. By the time you sell your 10th customer, you should be able to close them in like one meeting. I'm oversimplifying this. Some products are complicated, can take 6 months. I'm not saying that. I'm saying on a scale, your next 11th customer, 12th customer should be very straightforward because they are your ICP, value prop is proven, you have case studies, they should just be able to close, right? And the reason we stopped doing that was because we were finding it hard to get, we actually got up to like 30 paying customers. And then after that, it was just getting difficult. The requirements were getting too complicated. So here's my lesson on product market fit. For every product, you will easily get your first 20, 30 customers. They are called very early adopters. Even if it is a crappy product, even if it is something that is marginal utility, you will always find some very early adopters. Think of, iPhone is a bad example because it's a different genre. But whenever when iPhone came out, the very first model, there is a line out there, right, to buy that. You don't know what features are there, whether it actually works. I don't consider myself an early adopter. I like to wait. I bought my first iPhone in 2001, right? After people have tried it for 4 years. Oh, no, sorry, 2011. Sorry. 2007, 2011. So here's my lesson on product market fit. We thought we had reached product market fit because we are getting repeated customers, but it flattened after that. So product market fit actually comes even much later, like maybe in B2B at least, like after 100 customers. So it is relatively easy to get your first 10, 20 customers. Those are the very early adopters. Don't mistake that for product market fit. That was my biggest lesson learned. So to your question, when did I know when I had to pivot? When my incremental sales were getting harder and harder, longer and longer. Then I knew I'm not in the right segment. So we pivoted. Now, we pivoted for many different reasons. We want to increase our valuation. We wanted to go into self-serve business, which is now called product-led growth. 2011, it wasn't called PLG. We called it self-service business because they had higher valuation. So we entered that market and we tried that for a while. We made a lot of mistakes in that part. And we quickly realized this is not going to work because we were not getting paying customers. We were not able to convert. We were getting a lot of free, but not able to convert. Now, on hindsight, I could have done a lot of other things, which I'm now learning with this PLG related material. I had nothing. There were no blog posts. There was no Lenny's podcast to follow. But in hindsight, there was a lot more we could have done to actually make that business successful. But in that, we got a third pivot. We got a call from NetSuite CEO that they are looking for a data visualization tool that is native to NetSuite. Something like a Tableau kind of experience, but inside NetSuite. So we completely transformed the product, connected to their APIs. And that's when we got the final product market fit because we were able to get to 60 customers, actually even 100 customers. So by the time I left, and then we had like 55 people in the company by then.
Yeah. That was the great thing. Basically, the pivoting identification of the point where you have to realize that you need to pivot is very, very important. I mean, that's the right thing, whatever, you have done. Yeah, it was a good learning for me as well. So, Deepak, continuing our discussion, right? So we understood the product market fit. So, but there is uh, another point that the understanding the competitive landscape, like so how do you analyze the competitive landscape? Is it alongside this product market fit, or is it when do you do this product a competitive landscape analysis for your product?
Yeah.
How if there is any existing product that you are actually
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
uh, yeah.
My recommendation is not to use the word competitive landscape, but use the
Mhm.
word like alternative landscape.
Mhm.
And I'll explain what
Mm.
that means. So
Mhm.
remember, I talked earlier about understanding the user's workflow, and
Mm.
they're trying to do a job and
Mm.
they're trying to do something.
Mm.
How are they doing it today? What options are available for them in that
Mm.
context today?
Mm.
Now, when you do comparative analysis, you want to know how it is being solved today.
Mm. Mm.
So there are three ways a problem gets either solved or not solved. The very first way is don't solve it,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
There are lots of issues in the enterprise world that don't get solved at all for
Mm.
various reasons. Too complicated, not feasible, whatever that may be, right? The second way is they do it themselves, either manually or, maybe build it in house or so on. The third way is they are using some product to actually help them with that, right? Now, your job as a PM is to see in my chosen segment, in the specific context and the use case that I am trying to solve for, are there opportunities that the incumbent, the alternates cannot provide,
Mm.
right? So if you look at linear, for example, why are they being so successful? Because they identified. Now, if I tell you today that, hey, Jay Kishore, I'm building a new ticket management tool for developers, what are you going to say? Oh, that's crazy. It's such a big unicorn, billions of dollars in revenue. Why would you want to compete with them? But
Mm.
look, Linear is doing that. So how did they do that? They attacked this very specific sub-segment and attacked from that point of angle, where they found that Jira probably is an overkill, and some customers need something simpler at a better price point and something that is easier to manage compared to
Mm.
Jira.
Mm.
Jira needs, Jira is good for like big teams where there are the Jira administrator and so on. Linear says, okay, if you want something simpler, then go for Linear then.
Mm.
So that so in every product category, there is always some gap of an unserved need, either an unserved use case or an unserved customer segment.
Mm. Mm.
So as a product manager, you have to look at competitive landscape from that angle. Is how is that particular use case getting solved today, right? So, for example, I was actually working with somebody on a startup idea myself, and we were looking at ideas to help content creators with AI tools to create content, right? Now, we looked at the landscape. There are so many options available today. You can use ChatGPT and Gemini, but even Notion, Coda, Microsoft Word, they all
Mm.
have AI tools now. So, what am I adding extra? So you have to think as a PM, what is my incremental value add in that segment or in that use case? And if you don't have anything to add, now the only thing that you can think of is I have a cheaper product. Then, if that's what you are going after, then you better make sure that you have that feasibility validation that I talked about earlier,
Mm.
and you better make sure that price is actually an important factor for your chosen segment.
Mm.
Enterprise don't want cheap. They want something risk free. They are willing to pay somebody
Mm.
like an Oracle database
Mm.
a millions of dollars in licensing fee to make sure that their business operations are stable and all of that, right?
Yeah.
So just because you have a cheap product, now if you say I'm going to be cheaper, I want to build a cheaper Jira, or I want to build a cheaper Calendly, I want to build a cheaper, DocuSign. Who is it cheaper for?
Mm. Mm.
And why would they? And how much cheaper?
Mm.
DocuSign is $84 a year or $100 a year. How much cheaper will you be? $10 a year?
Yeah.
Because if you are going to be $70 a year, they will go with the incumbent because they have a better brand.
Mm-hmm.
So to summarize your question, I always look at the competition from in my chosen segment, in my context, in that use case, what are customers' options today? And do I have a better option? Can I talk about my advantages, my differentiation uh, in a more meaningful way? Then I have an opportunity over there. So that is my competitive segment. By the way, in B2B at least, one of the big competitors is called status quo. Do nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So don't ignore that.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. So, when you're saying this, the competitive landscape, right? So, you are also, in fact, talked about uh, a little bit about innovation as well, right? That some unserved needs. Is that can we call as kind of an innovation? See, there are already existing so many products, and in that space, you are going to bring something new, and and you are competing with those people, those products. Is that an innovation? What do you call it
Abs-
as?
uh, yeah, absolutely. There are two types of innovation: sustaining
Mm-hmm.
innovation and disruptive innovation. This
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely a disruptive innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Uber is a disruptive innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Airbnb is a disruptive innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I always keep asking startups and PMs in the classes that I teach. What you have to look at is, you know, take customer service for example. Customer service, has been around since the Egyptian times. I actually found a tablet which has a case record of a complaint by a trader who was complaining about the quality of copper.
Mm-hmm.
It's in stone. So human behavior may not have changed, but how you solve those behaviors in a better way, faster, cheaper, more efficient, whatever that value may be,
Mm-hmm.
that is definitely a disruptive innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Before Uber or before, did we have taxis? Of course we had taxis. Didn't we have vehicles, buses, transport? Of course we had. Were they good? No, because there was some gap in the marketplace. Now, some gaps have to wait. Uber had to wait for the smartphone and the app store to be able to capitalize on that. If you had just, and if you remember
Mm-hmm.
Webvan failed miserably because not that the idea was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Grocery shopping online is very rampant today, everywhere, even in
Mm-hmm.
places like India, for example, right?
Yeah.
Um, but why did Webvan fail? They burned through 800 or $900 million of funding, but it
Mm-hmm.
failed.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because nobody in their minds would want to go to a web app, open up their computers. Even laptops were not that prevalent. In homes, you would have a PC in some corner room. Who's
Mm-hmm.
going to go there and order milk?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas today, you open the fridge, oh, I'm out of milk. I order it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So smartphone changed that. Some disruptive innovations have to wait. AI, all these AI innovations we are seeing today, we had to wait for LLMs to come, right? So, uh, so back to the question, these are all disruptive innovations where you look at existing processes and find inefficiencies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are lots of inefficiencies in many different aspects of our life, especially in the B2B side of things. Think about uh, you are in purchasing department, you have to approve invoices from your vendors. It's a very manual process in many companies today. Think about loan underwriting when you apply for a loan for your house or a car. So how many forms do we have to sign up? Like if you refinance your home here, I have to sign like 70 pages of document. What an
Mm-hmm.
inefficient process. Paper document. Somebody comes home and we go through this 70 pages of document.
Mm-hmm.
I counted last time in when I was refinancing. I think something like 140 signatures I had to do in
Oh
half
my
an hour.
God. Yeah.
So how many processes exist today that are so ripe for innovation in medicine and like diagnostic medicine, drug discovery? There are so many processes that are still ripe for innovation. So that as an entrepreneur, as a product manager, your job is to figure out those inefficiencies where
Mm-hmm.
things cannot be done efficiently today and see whether you can change that, and that's your disruption. Price point is also a disruption, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
For example, uh, in the earlier days, computers used to cost like $10,000s, and
Mm,
only corporations could afford it, right?
mhm,
And now you have a microprocessor, and Dell and others, Gateway, and many other, IBM, of course. IBM
mm,
started the PC revolution, and
mhm,
they dropped the price point to $5,000.
mm.
And then Dell came and they dropped it to like $3,000. And now you can go to Best Buy or anything and get a laptop for like $500,
Yeah,
$300.
yeah.
That pricing is also an innovation. Walmart is a classic example of that. How are
Mm,
they able to charge so low prices? In order to get to those low prices, you need to
mhm,
change your entire strategy, supply chain, material sourcing, and all of that, right? That is innovation.
mhm.
The
I
customers only see the customers only see reduced prices,
mm,
but in behind the scenes is a whole lot of things that needs to go to get that customer experience of low prices, right?
yeah.
Uh, so that's how I look at innovation.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a great point. Yeah, I mean, for customers to make things for customers easy in the back end, you need to do a lot of things. Yeah, that's a great point. Whatever you said. So now, I mean, you have what you want to develop a product, the vision, everything is ready right now. The stakeholders. I mean, so when you are actually working on your product, right? I mean, I saw one note or some one paragraph in your bio actually. At Sugar CRM, you established a strong stakeholder alignment for successful product launches. So, what are your some best practices for managing stakeholders in a fast-paced environment? I mean, any tips for
Yeah.
the product managers?
Um, let's first define who your stakeholders are.
Mm-hmm.
So there are like layers of stakeholders. At your immediate layer is your team,
Mm-hmm.
designers, QA, of course, developers, architects, your CI/CD team, DevOps team. Those are your immediate layer. The next layer is your product marketing teams, sales team, sales enablement team, because they are impacted uh, by your product directly, right? Then you have your executives. Um, CEO, CMO, CFO, they are also impacted by your choices eventually, right? For
Yeah.
example, just as an example, I was building a product at Sugar that required buying data from a third-party vendor, and I had to model that to see whether, if after purchasing my data, is my product still giving me a gross margin or not? And I had to convince the CFO so that they can approve that purchase, right? So you have to keep them in the loop. And then finally, you have your outer layer of stakeholders, partners, you know, resellers, implementation partners, because as a product manager, you owe them as well, because they are the ones who are actually implementing or selling to your customers, right? So you have to make it easier for them as well, right? So I view, and then ultimately, of course, is your customer. Now, do you consider customer as a stakeholder? It's a semantic issue. They are the most important part of your being, basically. You exist because of your customers, right? As a product manager.
Yeah.
So in order to have, my job as a product manager is to make sure that all my important stakeholders are aligned, bought in to what we are working on from a roadmap perspective, product strategy perspective, and even tactically what's coming from a date-wise perspective. So what the last thing that you want is product marketing is working on some product launch on a product that you haven't even heard of, and I don't know what they are launching, or it's not aligned to your product, and you are building something else. No. So you have to get them all aligned. So one of the things I do is every time I have a new product in the very early stages, when I'm even doing discovery, I involve everybody. I let everybody know, here's my plan. We are going to build this product. Our target is, say, summer of whatever year. This is my process that I'm going through. Now, different stakeholders need different levels of granularity in terms of input. A CEO or a CMO or a chief sales officer, they want to know the timing, the confidence, and when can they start building the pipeline, right? And readiness. customer support, they need a different level of input and granularity. They want to see what kind of problems will come in your product so that they are better prepared. Is there documentation? Can they replicate the problem themselves? Sales enablement team, they have a totally different level of need. Legal, there was one product where I actually had to make changes to our MSA and the privacy policy. So as a poor product manager, I would have actually gone to them at the very last stages when the product was ready. And I was lucky that I actually involved them earlier on because they also have their own lead time. Because sometimes legal teams also work with external counsels. And my product was actually even more complicated because it required GDPR and international data transfer issues. So I had to get counsel from Germany to be involved as well. So you have to give all of that time. So one of the best practices is involve every one of them early on. Even if it doesn't impact their immediate task right now, involve them early on. So when I was building a brand new product and everything was almost ready, and I accidentally met this person in finance, and we were just chatting. And then I told him, we are building this product, and I'm going to need a new SKU in NetSuite. And he said, well, it takes 2 months to create a NetSuite SKU. I said, are you nuts? My product is launching next week. And if you don't have a NetSuite SKU coded, salesperson will not be able to book revenues then, right? So for the next product that I launched, I already told them. So they, you know what they did? They created that on time for me. So involve them early on. Second best practice is be very specific as to what level of involvement you need from them. I actually wrote a whole blog post on how do you get your stakeholders involved. And there's a diagram as to which stakeholder at what level you should involve yourself with. Be thoughtful about what you need from them, and be sensitive to what is important to them as well. As a product manager, a lot of product managers, they think their job is to write stories, do some testing, and give the product to the marketing team. I tell them, don't call yourself a product manager. Then.
Okay.
You're not a product manager. You're just a requirements gatherer there. As a product manager, you have to anticipate, work with your stakeholders, and make sure they are ready.
Yeah.
Even the public relations guy who's writing the press release, you have to make sure that you give them the right messages. So you're not writing the press release as a PM. That person is writing. But your job is to give them raw material so that they can actually write it effectively. That talks about the value of the product, who is it for, how to use it, that kind of stuff, right? So involve them early, involve them at the right time, make sure that you talk to the right stakeholders at the right level of granularity, and keep them updated is the third point that I would say.
Yeah. Especially the keep them updated is the main, the key point, because if stakeholders are surprised when you're demoing your product, then you are in trouble after that.
Yeah. And also small things like, for example, in one of the companies, we had an onboarding team, right? Now, onboarding team is my stakeholder. They are part of customer success, but it's a very specific role. First 60 days, there's an onboarding team before they are handed off to the customer success team. I know, you know that, everybody knows that onboarding is one of the predictors of renewals, right? A bad onboarding is a predictor of churn. So I have to make sure that my onboarding stakeholder is well equipped to do a seamless onboarding without any friction. Which means I have to understand what are the onboarding steps, what can I automate, what can I eliminate in the onboarding, and make the job of the onboarding person easier. If I'm a regular PM and I say, oh, that is onboarding person's job, I'm not being a good PM then. It is my job to ensure I'm not doing the onboarding. That person is doing the onboarding. So it is my job to make it easy for them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, actually. Yeah. So basically, so when you were establishing some of the this product management processes and training your team, etc., right? Once you have this, so what advice you want to give to the PM leaders or the product management leaders on building and leading this this product teams? What are your, based on your experience, basically, or
Yep.
learnings?
I think every product organization is different. Some are more mature, some not. What I found when I was in my company was every PM team was doing things differently. The way they even things like roadmap formats were different. Even
Mhm.
status reporting
Mm.
formats were different. Uh, how they went about prioritizing features and
Mhm.
bugs, they were different. So
Mm.
every stakeholder was actually talking to islands of PM,
Mm.
right? So what you have to do is now every PM is responsible for their own product area, right? So
Mm.
I'm not denying that. So
Mm.
I'm a PM for the reporting and dashboard piece. I am the PM. This person is the PM for the workflow piece. This PM is responsible for the front end piece.
Mm.
Everybody has their own job, so that's
Mm.
fine. But
Mm.
the processes at which you communicate with the outside world and even internally, they
Mm.
need to be standardized to a lot of so that and I feel there's a lot of friction in not having standardized processes. Process is
Mm.
actually very important. Now,
Mm.
I'm not a process person myself per se, so I'm not too
Mhm.
big on agile or safe. I don't even believe in all of those. But
Mhm.
when I say process, I just having consistency. So this
Mhm.
is how we are going to do prioritization, and
Mm.
just stick to that. I'm not
Mm.
saying create like a 30-page prioritization process document or something. No,
Yeah.
have a process and say this is how we do, like you know how in product management they do t-shirt sizing. You
Mhm.
go to a big product team and they have like 5 6 sub teams. The
Mm.
t-shirt sizing also will be very different. Somebody will
Mm.
say, oh,
Mm.
5 days is a high. Somebody else will say, oh no, 10 days is a high. So
Okay.
standardize all of that. So how you communicate, what is your status reporting, how do
Mm.
you manage your prioritization? So
Mm.
that's at the tactical level. Now
Mm.
step back, and
Mm.
even at a strategic level, what is your core principles of your product, and how you are going to decide which problem areas we are going to tackle?
Mm.
That is where I think the biggest opportunities are today for product leaders,
Mm.
is guiding their team to think about how to think about the right opportunities. So there are two ways you do product, right? One
Mm.
is you take orders.
Mm.
You take orders from your customers, from your CEO, or
Mm.
from your salesperson. That
Mm.
is one way to do product.
Mm.
Unfortunately, I have a feeling more than 50% of companies fall into that pocket.
Mm. Mm.
Mm. I'm not talking about the big companies, but like most companies. The
Mm.
second way to do that is you become a real product manager and a product leader in
Mm.
which you have a deep understanding of your market.
Mm.
You have a deep understanding of the competitive landscape. You
Mm.
have a deep understanding of your customers and the jobs to be done and the pain point. And
Mm.
you have a clear idea that
Mm.
if we solve these problems, we will get more revenue.
Mm. Mm.
So linking that to revenue is also important. Just
Mm.
because a customer, 100 customers say, oh, we have a problem with this dashboard. I want to be able to export it to PDF. Okay, fine. 100 people say that. What does it do? Does it help you with more revenue? Does it help you with churn?
Mm.
Now, where this is important is in prioritization. Let's say you have two features, both of them impact 100 customers, but
Mm.
one of them actually helps reduce churn. Which one are you going to focus on? The one
Mm.
that reduces churn, that has
Mm.
measurable value, right?
Yeah.
So that the judgment of prioritization is also important.
Mm.
But what I'm trying to say is for a product leader, linking all of these in a standardized process that everybody has a shared understanding of, this is how we will analyze our customers, this is
Mm.
how we will identify opportunities, this
Mm.
is how we will prioritize our product, and this is how we will deliver and communicate. That's the part they should focus on.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely, you know, agree. So, I mean, we were talking about this, the product managers, doing all this, activities, right? So, do you see, what kind of an upskilling is required for these, product leaders as well as product managers in this, especially in this AI era, right? How they can actually, uh, you know always keep them ready for a new things, or what is that kind of a learning they have to plan, or they have to make them on
Go
a regular
through. Yeah.
basis? Yeah.
I think some skills are very important for a product manager as well as a product leader. Let me first talk about the product manager.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding the market, understanding your competition, understanding the customer, or what they are trying to do. What are some opportunities where our product can help them?
Mhm.
Does it work? Is it valid? I think they should be more focused on those aspects up to the point where they have to actually write a story.
Mhm.
I have seen organizations where product managers actually don't write Jira stories, which
Mhm.
I would love for all product teams to have one day. They should
Mhm.
not be writing stories, is my
Mhm.
hot take.
Mhm.
Um, they should write like requirements at a high level and so on.
Mhm.
But their job is more on the front end side of it. Are we solving the right problem? And
Mhm.
are we solving it in the right way that
Mhm.
helps us get customer value, which
Mhm.
in turn makes money for us?
Mhm.
Those are the four lenses that you have to look at. Does it
Mhm.
make does it give customer value? Am I working on the right thing? Is it
Mhm.
the right solution? Does it give value to the customer and does it help us make money?
Mhm.
Make When I say make money, it could be a lot of things. Does it
Mhm.
help us reduce churn? Does it help us grow our net new logos?
Mhm.
Whatever that money means. There are like different levels of making money, right?
Mhm.
So so product as a product manager, I want you to start upskilling yourself in those aspects of understanding. So that means you have to understand business. You have to
Mhm.
understand your industry very well, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And don't one of the things I say is a lot of PMs say, "Hey, how do I get better in UX? How do I get better in technology and API? How do I get better nowadays? How do I get better in AI?"
Mhm.
And nice skills to have, but that's not how you will get upskilled into being a PM. In order to
Mhm.
get upskilled into being a PM, you have to have a business understanding. And that's
Mhm.
one of the biggest thing I tell all my students in product management courses, that product management is a business role. It's
Mhm.
not a technical or a delivery role.
Mhm.
If you think it's a technical or a delivery role, please don't call yourself a product manager, right?
Yeah.
It is more about understanding, are we solving the right problem in the right way that gives us money and gives
Mhm.
customer value, right?
Mhm.
So focus on understanding the business aspect of your product. And
Mhm.
my startup advisory that I have now started doing that is
Mhm.
actually called business of products.
Okay. Mhm.
So the reason for that is that product is a business role, that you have to look at the business aspect of. Now, I'm not saying you don't have to worry about usability, adoption. You still have to do that, but
Mhm.
don't make that the primary focus.
Mhm.
And as you go up, the product leader, they have to be responsible for tying all these product initiatives your product team is working on to revenue.
Mhm.
Where do I get most revenue from?
Mhm. Mhm.
And that part is still being matured in the product industry. Some companies do it better than others, but I don't think it has matured to that extent.
Mhm.
There's a big divide between the revenue and
Mhm.
the product, and I
Mhm.
think that product leaders have to bridge that gap.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful insight which you have given. So, this is one last question which I have. If you want to give two advices to aspiring product managers, who want to become a product managers, right? So, what they should keep in mind, what they can expect in this product manager, a product management field, basically. They have fancy the dreams or fancy ideas about product management, all those stuff, right? So but
Yeah.
the real stuff, what is the reality? I mean, when you if you want to show them the reality, what are those 2 points they should keep in mind, if they want to get into a product management
Okay. Yeah.
role? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. The first point I would say is I already mentioned that this is not a technical role. Don't think that
Hmm.
gathering requirements, creating nice stories,
Hmm.
user flows,
Hmm.
that's not the main job. It is
Hmm.
one of the jobs, but
Hmm.
it's not the main job of a product manager. So you
Hmm.
have to go higher.
Hmm.
What is the right problem? And a lot of product managers come from engineering background.
Hmm.
And I had a professor who used to tell me that we were doing some case study. And I asked him, hey, what should be the solution? And he asked me, are you an engineer? And I said, yes. And he said, well, all engineers have this problem. They want an equation to solve
Hmm.
every problem.
Hmm.
In product management, I call product management as a non-definitive science.
Hmm.
What I
Hmm.
mean by that is we are not learning calculus. We are not solving trigonometry where there is one answer. No,
Hmm. Hmm.
we are solving we are solving customer problem for which there can be 6 answers,
Okay.
and all of them are right.
Mm-hmm.
Which one is right is something that you have to figure out based on your judgment, based on prioritization, strategy, and that is a very difficult thing to do. So building that muscle of doing the right selection on, let me take it back.
Mm.
Building that muscle that there can be multiple right answers is an
Mm.
important one to consider that. So
Mm.
that's one change that you will notice in a
Mm.
product manager role. The second one is ambiguity.
Mm.
A
Mm.
lot of times when you're building new product, you have absolutely no idea who is it for, what value am I doing. It's
Mm.
like you just have some vague hypothesis, and
Mm.
then you have to. So a lot of people are very uncomfortable with ambiguity, and I would recommend to them be very serious if you really want to be a PM or not.
Mm.
Don't think because PMs are getting high salaries and the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah.
It requires a certain set of attribute. Dealing with ambiguity is actually one of them.
Mm.
So the two things that will surprise
Mm.
product managers who are coming from other roles is
Mm.
dealing with ambiguity
Mm.
and dealing with a set of inputs on which they have to make a judgment call.
Mm.
That's going to be very hard if you are not comfortable with that. So
Mm.
now, can you learn this? I did.
Mm.
I was an engineer, but I quickly learned it that there is
Mm.
ambiguity, and your job is to navigate through the ambiguity and keep getting firmer and firmer answers.
Mm.
And once you have the firmer answer, it's like you're stranded in an island in the middle of the jungle, and you have no idea which way to go. East, west, where should I go to? I want to get to the coast and
Mm.
see if there is a rescue. I have no idea. So I do some small experiments here and there. So I'll try go east and say, oh, this one is just going up the mountain. This is not the right way. Now,
Mm.
is that a wasted effort? I don't
Mm.
think so, because you
Mm.
learned something valuable that going east is not a valid option.
Mm.
So doing something wrong for a while is a useful exercise. By
Yeah.
the way, you should apply that to your life as well. Do some
Yes.
experiment, take some risk, and so I think that's what you have to deal with.
Mm.
You will not have answers.
Yes.
So if I tell you, hey, product manager, you're building a new product, go talk to 10 customers and ask these 5 questions. I guarantee you will not get you will get 10 different answers. I guarantee you.
Mm.
Your job is to find the patterns behind the answers.
Yes.
Nobody will give you requirements straight away. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the key learning is every person has their own view to how a product should look like, how a thing should work like, right? So everyone will give their own views, and you will, like you said, everyone will give their own answers. And as a product manager, you need to understand the patterns, and with those patterns you need to deliver a product which can actually satisfy to all of those people. I mean, that's a really challenging task. And yeah, I mean, it's a great role, but it's equally challenging and
yeah, and
rewarding
because
as
you
well.
have to deal with so being judgmental
Yes.
and dealing with ambiguity. Those are the two enemies in product management.
Yeah, I totally agree. Uh, so Deepak, thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this podcast, and I got some of the greatest learnings in this product management, especially in the beginning of our chat. How to identify the product market fit, and how to analyze the real product needs, or customer needs, etc. Those are all actually real great insights. And also for us all aspiring product managers or practicing product managers, I recommend to read your blogs. I liked a lot your blog, and it's such a beautiful language you have, and it explains so nicely and clearly. And
Right?
and I
Thank
will
you so much.
post the yeah I will post the link to your blog in this the YouTube
Yep.
description, so that people can benefit from that blog as well. So
Awesome.
I would wish all the best for your whatever endeavors you're doing, the teaching, your courses, all those stuff. And thank you once again for being part of this particular podcast.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.